Hi, let's see how we can integrate monitor evaluation into your RAG application. Now, if you look at the documentation of monitor, you see that we're actually doing the same thing, but that in that case, we're like loading data from a CSV file. But now let's integrate monitor directly into your RAG application. So I have my Google Colabs here, and I have a few files that I want to show you before we get started. So in the requirement.txt file, we have monitor langchain and ChromaDB with python.env. That's just to load up this .env file, and we have this docs.txt file, which is like a knowledge base for monitor, just everything about monitor. It's right here, so we're going to use that as our knowledge base. So now all we need to do is just load up the import the right packages that we need. So I'm just going to run this cell right here, and that importation has been done. So the next thing to do is to load up the documentation. I'll just use a normal text loader because I just want to load the text file. So just load it up, and let's see what that document contains. So you can see we have just one document and everything is right inside of that document. So we have just one chunk. So but we want to have multiple chunks because we are building RAG applications, and also that will also help with our embeddings. So using the recursive character text splitter, we're just going to go with a chunk size of 200. I've actually experimented with this, and since I have just a list of 20 questions in my docs.txt, so this algorithm or this calculation works for me. So 200 by 10. But if you're trying to follow along, you can as well experiment with the numbers that works for you. So just going to do that, and once we look at the length, we can see it's 20, so that works fine for me in my use case. So the next thing to do is just to create the embeddings. Of course, I'm going to be using OpenAI embeddings. You can use whatever embedding provider that you want to use. I'm going to use OpenAI, and I'm just going to use ChromaDB, and I'm using ChromaDB because I just want everything to be local in my development here. So that's why I created this. I created a folder called Chroma, and so once this loads up, it's gonna like load up that file and create all the embeddings there and just like persist everything there. So we're just gonna run this cell, and the embedding is now done. So now let's look at how we can retrieve. So the retrieval process, I just want to test out from a query to test out if we're gonna get anything, and I will just like up this key to 3 and run this one, and now we have our chunks that has been returned to us based on this query that we passed there and running the similarity search. So we got back these 3 chunks. Now our first evaluation is to see whether the chunks that were returned is actually relevant to the question that was asked, right? Because the question is, what is monitor shield? So let's evaluate that, and in order to do that, all we need to do is just import evaluation from monitor and set our monitor API key. I'm going to tell you why we need the API key later. Then just instantiate the evaluation class and just initialize it to over here, evaluation. Then I just like simulate the actual output. It's not really necessary because in this case we actually care more about the context relevance than the actual output, but I just want to pass it there. And so what I'm doing over here is just like to format the retrieval. I just want to get all the page contents rather than the metadata and other stuff that are not really relevant to what I want to achieve in this case. So I'll just store all the retrievals here by getting the page context for each documentation. So this is how you format the data structure for it to work for monitor. So this is the formatting that is happening right here. So we pass in the query, the output, and the retrieval context, which is a list of strings. And then the next thing to do is just to run the evaluation suite and pass in the data set and pass in the metrics that we care about, and in this case we care about context relevancy. So running this is going to take a bit of time to run, but hopefully we get the response real quick. Okay, so now it's done, and you can see now the score is 1. So it's, if you look at the reason, it said the score is 1 because there's no reason provided why the retrieval doesn't match. So it's a perfect match. So that means that evaluation worked properly. So the next thing to do now is to pass in our context I will retrieve context into LLM to generate the actual output for us. So we just have my normal template here using the provided context, answer the following questions. I'm just reiterating that it has to use the context, right? And create the prompt template, format it, and just instantiate GPT 3.5 to run that. And let's run it and let's see the output. And you can see the output works fine. So just looking at this, I know it actually worked well, but again, just to be safe, let's check for hallucination. So we're going to run this, and you can see the score is 0, meaning there was no hallucination. So it seems everything is working fine. So just for another info out there is that you can actually go back to the Murnitur platform to see all those evaluations that you run on your on the Colab. And so you can see the first one that we ran here, which is to check for the context relevancy, and you can see it's 1, so it was relevant. And the other case is to check for the hallucination, and you can see there was no hallucination, so everything works fine. So this is how you integrate Murnitur evaluation into your RAG application.